Hi, I'm Kimberly Ryan, the Associate Director for Career Services. And today we're going to go over how you can prepare for a career, what steps you could be doing now while you're in college, and why you shouldn't put this off or wait until you graduate. So planning ahead is key when you're trying to go into a new career. So you need to think about, obviously, the first step people typically think about is education, and that is what you're doing now. Unfortunately, a lot of students think, well, if I just get the degree and the education, I'm set. I'm guaranteed a job. I am good to go. And while it's true, education is such an important piece and it can open doors for you in many different ways, it doesn't mean it's a guarantee. There's other pieces to the puzzle, and you don't want to wait till senior year to find out maybe there were some requirements or some things you should have done along the way that are going to hurt you in your job search. And other people might be more competitive applicants to jobs because they did it while they were in college. So we're going to show you today how you can plan ahead and what steps you can take each year while you're in college. So to start off with, during freshman year, you can assess your skills and interests and make sure the major that you are in or whatever career you're thinking of right now, does it really line up with something that you can excel at, something that you, of course, want to do? This is something that you're planning on doing for years to come. And for some students, that may mean taking a personality or career test to see is all of the requirements for the career I'm going to, do I have the skill and ability and will I enjoy it? And those tests can really help answer those questions. So for instance, we are a STEM school. If you are going into engineering, you need to be strong with math. And if I hate math or I never want to do X, Y, or Z, you need to know about that career, what the requirement is and what you would be doing day to day. Because if you don't want to do equations day to day, you'd want to know what careers you should avoid. And of course, we want to better off find out what are things you really enjoy. So those are things that you can really turn into a career. Of course, when you're going into career, there are requirements, and I talked about that. The first step is education. You are going to need to have, usually in a lot of fields, perhaps a degree. Is it going to be undergrad? Is it going to be a master's or beyond? Is it going to be a certificate? Or is there any other special types of training that you would need? Those are things that you can be researching now so that you're prepared and am I in it for the long haul? If you're not prepared or you don't want to go to school for 6 years or longer possibly, you need to know, well, then certain careers might not be for you and vice versa. If I want this career or you are interested in a certain area, you need to know, okay, I need to commit and plan out the next, 4 to 6 to 8 years, whatever it is, depending on what your goal is. This is the time, though, freshman year, very important that you really focus on strong study habits. I know so many people that say, is or question, is a GPA really that important? If I just have a degree, isn't that all that counts? And while there's truth to the fact that as you move through your career and you get more experience, employers probably are not going to ask you your GPA if you already had a couple years experience. However, when you are getting an internship or your first to 2 years out of college, they typically do ask for your GPA, and there's some strict requirements at competitive companies. We have interns that go out here into some of our most sought after employers, and yes, they do have requirements for the standard would be usually around 3.0. That's considered competitive. So if you have a 3.0 or better, we say that's something to be proud of and you should put it on your resume, show it off. If you don't, we would say, okay, we're not going to highlight it on your resume, work on it in the next semester, see if you can get it up a little higher. But some employers that we know of, they're very competitive and they might require 3.2, even a 3.5. If it's a very competitive company, they might require a higher GPA to get that internship. And internships are very valuable because that can get you in the door, not only to get some great experience on your resume, which could open up your possibilities after school for many employers, but even in that particular employer, you could be hired directly from them upon graduation, and we've even had students here that get hired before graduation, immediately, even before they get their degree, because the internship went so well. So those things can happen, and that's why we recommend internships. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but make sure you focus on that GPA, because we don't want to hear, when you graduate and you're applying for jobs that, I unfortunately, I'm being turned away by a lot of employers because my GPA isn't that high. So make it a priority now, set good habits so that you can be set up to be in the best position possible to apply for the job you want. This is a year, of course, where you're getting to know your school, you're getting to know your campus. So we do recommend you get involved. And we recommend that because think of all the connections you can make this way. You want to learn the most you can right now about, okay, what do my peers do? What do my professors do? What kind of clubs or local activities are going on, so that you can understand, again, what is the landscape that I'm going to go into for whether it's internship job or just making a networking connection. And so you could even be doing that as a freshman. This is your time to learn. We also have a career services portal called Handshake, and I'm going to go into more detail, but this is something as a freshman you can learn about. Learn how to use Handshake, learn how to find out information about campus and what's going on. I understand this year is going to be a little different, right? We're in a virtual environment, so you can still do these things online. It will look different. It may, take a little more time and investment on your part to do it through the online medium, especially if that's not something that you're thrilled about. But we can make it work. You can meet people online. We are doing programs just like this where things are recorded, but you could also do live meetings. I know a lot of clubs and a lot of activities are going to be online this year. And even with our employer events, we're planning on having live events online, so you can talk to people online. So be prepared to brush up on your virtual skills, your etiquette on how to interact in a virtual environment, and career services can help you with that. We'll be having some more workshops to help you guys. Talk about an activity you could do to further evaluate your skills, your abilities, and what you really would like to do in a career. We highly recommend you take a personality test or a career test. Some of these tests, you can find some really great ones out there. They're paid though, meaning you're gonna have to usually pay a fee to take them. But I have linked right here 2 free ones that we do recommend. So if you want to take a simple personality test, the one we have linked right here is 16 personalities. And that is basically a little bit of a blend of Myers-Briggs and some other psychological theories into one. It takes about, I'd say, 5 to 10 minutes. Very quick. You take a simple test, and everyone I've known who's taken it, including myself, has said it's really accurate. They say things about you that you're like, yes, that is so true. That is me. And it gives you a breakdown in different areas of your life, how that personality affects you, whether it's in your personal life or your academic / career. It actually talks about careers that would be best for you in your personality and what you would excel at. So this is a quick free one. I definitely recommend that if you want something quick to do. As far as the other personality tests, here we have the free career interest test. Well, that we have linked out here, and it is under a program that we call ONET, and they fund a lot of different things for career research, and one of them that they offer you is a free career test. And this one is much more extensive than the free personality test I showed you. You can link to this through Handshake, and at the end of my presentation, I'm going to show you as well where you could link to these things. But this one will probably take you about a half hour. It's going to be very detailed about what you like to do and what you don't like to do, and it will go through very specific questions. You like to work with your hands, you like to fix things, and then they'll go very detailed into more questions based on those and work-related questions. And then it gives you, at the end, a really nice report where it will go over different occupations that you would be a great match for, and then different ones at different education levels, which is nice. So they will tell you at different, whether it's high school, bachelor's, or beyond, what jobs you could get in each different education level. So that's also a helpful report. I do recommend. That's a great tool to use. Moving on though to sophomore year, I do recommend that by sophomore year, you start looking more deeper into your career search. So it's beyond just the large scale area of I know I want to, for instance, go into psychology. Well, psychology is a huge field. You can do many different things with psychology. So you need to, starting around sophomore year, start thinking of what do I want to do within my major or within my career. And for some, it might be a little more clear cut. If you're going to go into mechanical engineering, yes, it's going to be something based with mechanics. However, even in a field like that, that's already a little bit specialized, you could go even further. Are you going to work within the automotive field and work in mechanics, or would you rather work in maybe the aeronautics, mechanical aerospace side of mechanics? There's so many things you can do even in mechanical engineering, depending on what you're designing and what you would like to work with. So that's more, there's a lot of different things you might want to think about in each field. What would you specialize in? Because it would be helpful to know, for instance, do I want any extra certifications or anything to help me stand apart when I'm applying with an employer? And having some specialty background or being able to show that you understand the skills needed for a specialty is very important. And in some fields, like for instance, in psychology, there are certain fields where it's an absolute must, it's required. If you want to go into behavioral therapy, for instance, usually you start with what's called an RBT. So you have to get an RBT certificate called a registered behavioral therapist. You can get that with a bachelor's or less. So that's something that a lot of people start doing right away while they're in college, and you can get that certificate to specialize in that area. So each field is going to be a little different. If you want to talk more about this, of course, we recommend coming to our office. You can meet with a counselor, but there's some other really good tools, and we talked just a little bit about that ONET Online resource that had the interest profiler. And that had a test that was linked right here to the I Want to Be section. But this whole site is a great tool to compare careers and see, okay, what do I need to be, for instance, if we were talking about mechanical engineer, or maybe we want to look up computer science. Now, computer science, again, a big field. So when I use the occupation quick search box, you notice when I put computer science in, it's giving a long list of different types of careers within that field. And these codes and everything matches directly with the US Department of Labor. So our US government has already categorized different occupations and what they are, and this is their list. So within here, if you say, I want to be a computer programmer, it gives a very detailed report of, okay, this is what it is, a definition at the top. And then it gives you some sample reported job titles, which is really great, because I recommend a really good tool to research a career is go look at actual real job postings, read them, find out what do they say the requirements are, because on job postings, it says, this is the description and this is what the requirements are to get hired. You want to be familiar with what those requirements are while you're in school, so you can get them and master whatever the requirement is and meet those requirements. So these are different job titles you could search for to find real jobs related to this. And in computer programming, it's pretty straightforward, but there's some careers where the titles could vary largely. For instance, if you are going into business, their terminology can vary highly. So you might want to see, what do they call a manager? Do they call it a manager, a coordinator, a supervisor, a superintendent? And the list could go on and on and on of the terms they use in business. So each field might have more terms, while some might be a little more straightforward as this one is. But the background they give, which is great. If you want to know exactly what you will be doing in this field, it shows you right here that these are the tasks you will be doing. These are the skills. It actually gives you a list of technical skills that you should start to be familiar with. And it's not an exhaustive list, but it's showing you with these kind of little icons that these are really sought after skills. So these are ones that employers tend to like. And of course, look up a real job, because like I said, different employers might focus on different areas. So look up the types of jobs you're interested in to see which ones they emphasize. Very long background here that you could read about this career of all the things that would make you a good fit. And then towards the bottom, we have, okay, what type of education is required? And you'll notice for this degree, it says 88% only have a bachelor's degree. So that means you would be very competitive with a bachelor's degree. You would not necessarily need to go on for any other degree after the bachelor level, because as you can see, they don't even list higher degrees than that. So this will get you where you need to go. Now, if you're in a field that you did need a higher degree, it would list that. So this is a great tool. You could see everything's listed here. Towards the bottom, you're noticing, of course, a lot of times people like to see what is the wages and employment trends. So if you want to know, well, what would I get paid in this field? You know, what is the outlook? And you can see here, actually, they're saying the projected growth is on a decline. So interestingly, in this area, you would expect computers, of course, as always, you know, we always need that. But perhaps in the programming area, that might not be as hot right now. And other areas might be growing. So, you know, for instance, like app developers and other things might be a little bit more on the rise than traditional programming. So you would want to compare that. And so you could compare right here where it says related occupations, look up some other things you could do with computer science. So you want to be an analyst, you want to be, again, we just talked about developers or app developers right here. Software right here, if you look, that has a very big label saying bright outlook. That means they're growing. The need for software developers is growing while programming is a little bit on the decline. And you could compare the salaries. Look what the salary is by state, by local zip code you could even look up. And right here, this is the national average. So great tool, recommend you use it. You want to talk to a counselor to find out how to use it even more, or would like to specifically talk to us to see you know, what type of specialties are out there, make an appointment with us, and I'll show you at the end how you can make an appointment with us. As far as your career network, sophomore year, we talked about, you know, before freshman, you're kind of getting to know people, you're learning. Well, now you're building, okay? By this time, hopefully you have kind of learned our campus, you know what's going on, and now you can keep growing your network here. And we recommend you do that by, again, going to networking events. And we recognize this year, there's likely not going to be as many in-person events. So this means you're gonna need to network online, and I'll go over where we can do that. But also think about sophomore year. This is a good time to start thinking about, do you want to perhaps do a part-time job if you haven't already? Do you want to look into co-ops or doing an internship? I just talked a little bit in the beginning of this presentation about why internships are so important. You definitely want to take advantage. If you can do an internship, that will help you so much. Not only will it give you the experience to see and learn if a career or a type of employer appeals to you, it also is going to give you a great item that you can put on your resume. Employers really value students that have internships. It shows that you have an introduction to the work and what's required, and that would help you get a job after graduation. This time, of course, for some of you, you might say by sophomore year, you know, now you know what you want to do for sure, and now you're ready to get into your major program. Some of you guys may still be questioning or not sure. So again, this is where you can use those resources to make, you know, your choice about what you're going to be majoring in. You should also make sure that you have your handshake profile up to date, and I'll show you again at the end our handshake system. That's helpful with finding internships and having employers be able to even reach out with you or network through handshake. And of course, to reach out to employers or network, a resume is really what you need. So by sophomore year, you should have a resume ready to go, and you should be updating it, because as you go through your college career, things are going to be changing rapidly with the skills, the courses, the projects, and perhaps hopefully, you know, your internships or part-time experience can continually be updated on that document. We also have career fairs that run through our office and some off campus. This year it will be virtual, so you will be able to virtually attend our Career Expo, and we'll show you where we post all of our events at the end. In terms of networking, this is the area that, especially if you're just starting out here and you are a freshman, that can be intimidating. How do I network? How do I make some connections? And right now you might be thinking, socially, I just want to make some friends. I just want to get, you know, have a social life, which those are, of course, are great things. You can build upon that, though, also into your professional network. So that's the very first start I tell students is Your peers and your professors, that's your first line of networking. They might know employers, they might have family members who work for certain companies or things that you're interested in. They are your first line areas to network and say, okay, I see that you have a connection with whatever company. Is it Northrop Grumman or a local, partner here? Or is it something even perhaps maybe somewhere else far off? And now that's your person to ask, hey, would you mind if I talk to, if it's their family or connection about that job or about that workplace? I had some questions, I'm interested. Professors are very happy to help and answer your questions there. And that can lead you to many places just through that one avenue alone. Then beyond that, there's so many other ways. We have some examples listed here, okay? You can be going out, again, we talked about get involved, volunteer on campus. You will meet people, they will be connected to other people, you'll learn about more and more places to work and what do people do. And that's very important that you get involved that way. We already talked about on the job or internship. That is a great place to network. If you can get a job or the internship, that's kind of your audition almost to say, if you're ready to graduate and get a full-time job, you've already met and networked with everybody there. And so it's usually a lot easier to get hired and get a job if you already have the network inside. I talked about, we have some career fairs and expos that happen here. That's where you have the opportunity to meet with an actual recruiter or contact from a company and network with them, talk to them, find out what their requirements are for their job, follow up with them. Okay, that's how you keep a contact, is following up. We have many other ways to meet employers, whether it's through information sessions or other events on campus. Obviously, there's a lot of clubs and associations, which would be great. So if you want to get into the club that's related to your industry or your major, I recommend you do that. There's many different campus events that you could, find these things that are where they're listed, whether it's with the Student Affairs Office. We have a campus calendar. FitForm is a subscribe list where you'd have to subscribe to that list where people make announcements. There's definitely some undergrad and graduate research programs. You could even volunteer to do some research that gets you, again, a little more access to maybe some external programs as well as professors. And then, of course, branch out from there. It doesn't have to just be with our school. We have locally some Brevard County groups. We have Student United Way that you could reach out to. We have, of course, our local Chamber of Commerce, which each town has. So that's a really great way to find out if there's any events you can attend as a student. Go to their website, Chamber of Commerce, whether it's for Melbourne, Palm Bay, and beyond. There's more towns that are close to us. And of course, look up some professional organizations. Example, you could do locally. We have the Space Coast Tech Council. It's a local organization, obviously, to help people in tech careers. So there's many different types, and I'll show you, here are some avenues of where can you find those groups, where can you network, and particularly this year is critical, where can you network in a virtual world? So right at the top, I'm showing off LinkedIn and Handshake. Those are your two go-tos. LinkedIn particularly is the virtual networking tool that is dominating the US. So if you want to network with an employer, find a job, see job postings, or interact with companies, LinkedIn is the way to do that online. You need to make a professional profile on there, and we do have some other tools on our website, and we will be having some more workshops. If you need help on creating a LinkedIn profile or how do you use LinkedIn, we'll have separate workshops that will cover that topic, because we can go in detail of how can you best use that. Same with Handshake. We have a workshop coming up on how to use Handshake. Handshake is an exclusive platform just for university and college students to find jobs, network, and meet with career services and employers. So it's everything in one for your career needs here while you are at FIT. So it is our platform that we use here on campus for everything career related. And it lets you network with other schools and other students at schools. And I'll show you at the end how to best use Handshake. But beyond those two platforms, there's so many things you can use. Facebook has fast become a place for businesses and companies to create profiles and accounts, mostly for marketing, but also for learning and interacting. So even on Facebook, which is usually associated with social, social media and more friends, family, it can be used. And of course, I'd recommend you make sure you do have a professional photo and professional profile or hidden settings if you are going to reach out or talk to employers through Facebook, because again, impressions are very important even in the online world. But you can talk with and find news and different articles and interact with companies straight through Facebook. Some people even say that their response times and ability to talk with companies through Facebook is sometimes faster. There's many other sites, so I can't exhaustively go through all of them, but some of the big ones, of course, Meetup can be used for social clubs, but it also can be used for business clubs. So any type of industry that would like to have maybe a learning or networking event, they might post it on Meetup. If you are looking to get involved with a professional association, which I do recommend, directoryofassociations.com gives an exhaustive list of all the different types of associations, and you can look it up by industry. So if you want to, look up based on your major, what types of professional memberships you can get involved with, that's a great place to network online and go join their association. They all have typically their own websites and their own member portals that you could communicate online. So that's a great thing I would recommend. We also have, if you'd like to network beyond our school, FIT is involved with what's called the Colleges of Central Florida's Career Consortium, for short, CCFCC. It lets you go to any events with these member schools, and includes schools like University of Tampa and Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. So if you are wanting to maybe see an employer that you notice is going to one of those schools' career fairs or events, you have the ability to attend those, which is great. Embry-Riddle is not that far from us, so that's one that I would say is pretty close if you wanted to go to their events. Now, we know this year, likely there might not be a lot of in-person events with those schools either. So if you are going to go to their events, it would likely have to be virtual this year. And most of those schools will post on Handshake their events so that you can attend as well. So Handshake really is the place to be to find events, and we'll show you those. But before we do that, I recognize that a lot of students who haven't networked before, or maybe they haven't, done a lot of interaction with employers, state that it's kind of intimidating to approach employers, whether it's at a career fair, or even a smaller event than a career expo, because ours are quite large, that it's intimidating. And so all you need to know when you're networking is, can you introduce yourself, who you are? And as a student, it's going to be, okay, what school year are you? And then, of course, what is your major? And you could then pitch that, and we call that your professional pitch. Sometimes it's called an elevator pitch, because it means you give in 15 to 30 seconds who you are. And that's basically all you need to do to network, is tell them, okay, you are a student here at Florida Tech. You are majoring in. You could talk about your strengths. You could add to this, like I said, what school year? Are you a freshman? Are you a sophomore? If you say to yourself, I don't have a lot of backgrounds, things that I'm doing right now, talk about what you future would like to do. So you could talk about career goals. You could talk about projects, for instance. If you're saying, I'm a freshman, I haven't really done much. If I didn't have a lot of background in high school to draw from, you could go into, well, I really would like to study, list whatever it is. And one of the projects I plan to complete in the future is, and list that. You can do that if you don't have a lot in your background. That's simple. That's all you have to do. Then you ask them questions. You let them do the talking. Most people are very happy to talk. In networking, sometimes they have what's called the 80-20 rule, which means let the other person talk 80% of the time, and you only talk 20% of the time. You ask questions, you let them talk. Even asking them, hey, how did you get into the field you're in? What do you like about the company you work for? Those are simple questions you can ask that people could sometimes spend a lot of time telling you the ins and outs of their career and what they do. So that's how you learn, and that's how you network. Here are some examples, though, if you really wanted to see some examples of could it look like. Here's one at the top in computer science where they talk about they had some background with some technical skills. They talk about their courses. Okay, what subjects have they done so far? And they talk about, again, what are they looking to get a position in? So that's good to do if you are talking with someone and you need, for instance, you're looking for internship, something like that. You can politely put that out there. You're not going to want to be aggressive. You're not going to say, I want to know if you can hire me. Usually you have to show them you're a match before you ever could get to the step of getting an interview. So this is the conversation stage. So just put yourself out there. You can say, I'm looking right now for different types of internships related to what you, in this time especially, we know job searching can be a little hard. It's okay to say, I understand it's a very hard time right now with what we're going through with the pandemic. Does your company expect to have openings? That's a polite way of asking it. Versus, unfortunately, some students, I know it's frustrating. You get frustrated with a not a good job market, and you say, well, I know things are really bad right now. So, are you even going to hire this year? That's not a nice way to say it. That's not professional. That's not polite. Always think of, again, be asking appropriate questions. Don't show attitude. You never know who that person is or who they know. So even if it doesn't work out with that person, right now, or they don't have any jobs, you don't know in the future if they will, or someone they know will, and they will think of you if you leave a good impression. But showing anger or frustration is not going to leave a good impression. So moving on, we're going to go into junior year. I know that sounds like a far off way for some of you, but some of you might be transfers, so you might be here. And if that's the case, you may have to catch up on some things that we just talked about if you haven't done them yet. You can just to put this out there, you don't have to do this exactly so here as it's, separate year by year. If you want to get ahead, I recommend it. You should. If you can get an internship as a freshman, do it. Now, often that's hard. Typically, junior year is the year that a lot of employers expect students to be ready for an internship. So some internships, you're going to see them say junior or senior level required. And so that means, yes, freshmen, you're not going to be able to apply for those. But if you do find one that you can apply to, take it. That means you're really going to be ahead to get an even better internship by junior year, or a part-time job, or who knows where that will lead. So you don't have to do it in the exact order, but we recommend getting ahead is always better. If you're playing catch up, that means you need to work a little harder, okay? So you need to make sure you're really researching and taking the time this semester to research what the requirements are for the career you're going into. Start right now thinking about internships, okay? If you're a junior, you need to start now. You should have that resume ready to go if you need to catch up on that. You want to, of course, see if you're thinking about grad school right now, that's not that far off, because a lot of grad schools expect you to apply at the beginning of your senior year. So even starting to think about that now is something you should look into. And this is the year that you're really visiting a lot of those career platforms. So we talked about Handshake. I'm going to show you Career Shift, but those are basically mega search engines to look at jobs. You should be looking at jobs to familiarize yourself with, okay, internship requirements for sure, but even beyond that, am I ready next year to start applying for jobs? And you need to really be looking to make sure that you're ready. You definitely should be this year attending all the events that you can related to our employer events. Highly recommend that. By this year, hopefully, maybe you might even have some leadership roles. So this is the time you've already hopefully built some connections. Now you should be showing some leadership. Leadership is great to put down on your resume if you can. If not, continue volunteering. Those are still good things to round off a resume. So we do recommend that you still be involved. Junior year, though, lastly, I will say is you want to practice interviewing skills this year. We know interviewing can be intimidating, so we do offer mock interviews through our office. A lot of employers will offer mock interview events with us, so sign up for those, okay? Make sure that you're practicing, because again, we don't want an interview to hold you back from a job. You might be the best candidate and have everything going for you, but if you are not able to communicate that with someone, if you can't tell them what skills you have and what you're good at, sometimes that can cost you the job. And it could just be a poor impression that makes them pick someone else. So we don't want that to be the reason. So definitely start practicing. Lastly, we're going to go into senior year. This is the year by now, hopefully you know exactly what you want to do, exact jobs that you would like to look for. You should have a listing of the types of companies that you now know. I'm going to look and target those companies. Start prioritizing your job applications. Job applications can take some time. It's not that quick. And following all the instructions is the difference between getting hired or not. If you think I can really zip through this application, type really quick, get everything going, just upload my generic resume and be good to go, send that out 50 times, I should be good, right? No, you need to, each employer has different instructions of what their requirement. I will tell you right now, in our office when we hire students, at the bottom in our requirements, we say cover letter required. Not a lot of jobs do, but if they say that and you don't attach a cover letter, immediately we're thinking you don't read and you don't follow instructions. And that's what an employer thinks. So that's why they all have different instructions. They have different things they want you to do because they want to see, can you read and be detail oriented and follow their instructions? You miss something like a cover letter like we had, and we're going to say, okay, we're not going to prioritize those candidates. We're prioritizing the ones that show that they could read and follow the instruction. Okay, so that's how important it is to make sure you follow everything, which means it could take a long time. Some applications can take up to an hour just to do the normal application part. And then if you are going to do a resume, we recommend you tailor the resume to the job. Every job is a little different, and you're not going to be able to fit usually every single little thing that you ever did. Sometimes some of you guys may not have that problem, but sometimes it can be hard, and we recommend you fit your resume to one page if you are an undergraduate. So if that is the case, you might need to tailor, okay, if they ask for certain skills or have certain keywords in their job description, you need to have those in your resume, which means you might have to tweak your resume every time a little bit so that you stand out. And that could be the difference between getting an interview or not. So just taking the extra hour could mean a job. As far as grad school, by this time, usually you have started your applications to grad school. If that's something you're interested in, you would need to do any exams or applications, like the GRE is a very popular one. Research with the school, same thing. You need to follow every instruction, and grad school applications, same thing, can be very involved. They might require an application, an essay, a letter of intent, references, resume, who knows what else they'd like. There's usually a long list, and same thing, you need to follow every step, because that's usually what helps get you in, is by showing I read everything, I can follow the instructions, I really understand what's going on and took the time here because I really want to get into school, which shows that you really are interested. And then of course you want to be researching. We know right now, for instance, seniors, this was a rough year for them to research the labor market, and I'll go over some tools in Handshake to show where you could do that. But it's, certain years you might have a lot of jobs, what they call a job seeker market, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's an employer's market where you're going to have to work very hard to make sure your applications, resume, everything is perfect, because it might take a little longer to land a job. You also, by this year, hopefully have a work-ready wardrobe. So some jobs have strict dress codes, some might be a little more relaxed, but for the interview basics, always interview, you need to dress professionally. A professional suit, you can't go wrong no matter who you are. And so we recommend that, because you don't want to ever underdress for an interview. As far as job boards and different things you can check with discussions and things like that, we have a whole list of activities on the side. Hopefully by this year, you're able to do all those things and have a good network already to draw on, because you worked on it while you were here in school. So like I said, I was going to end with Handshake and how you can use Handshake, but I also would like to show you that we offer a lot of services through our office. We have a lot of job search tools. We have a lot of events. Everything though that I'm going over here, you would find through Handshake. So I will show you that. And then of course, if you want to contact us directly and you just would like to send us an email, we recommend career@fit.edu. We also have our phone number listed. Due to the pandemic and everything going on, you still may enter our office, but we are limiting it to only 2 at a time. So sometimes it's better to call ahead if you're planning on visiting. And then in terms of appointments, we are doing all virtual appointments this year. So in that case, we would say go straight through Handshake. No need to come to our office. You should be able to make everything through Handshake. That way we just minimize our contact and follow the Florida Tech Safe policies. So to end with, we are going to show you Handshake. So I am going to now jump here to our career platform. And if you have not logged in yet, or you don't know your login, it is going to be your tracks. It's simply, you're gonna just add your FIT email and whatever tracks password you have set up. If you have any problems though with logging in, you can always reach out to our office, but it should be all set for you. The URL is fit.joinhandshake.com. And you can get to this through our website. We have links through PAWS, but if you just want to take the straight URL, you could do that as well. And so, like I said, everything you would need to network, learn about what's going on with your campus, find jobs, find internships, they're all listed up here. So we talked about, of course, jobs if you want to find, events we have here. So you can see what's coming up. There's some virtual career fairs that are not associated with our school, but they have invited our school, so you can go to those. And then we have some webinars coming up, so you can see if you want to learn more about Handshake. I'm going to go into more detail during that webinar. Today I'm just giving you a very quick overview so you can at least see it. We talked about networking a lot, so if you wanted to find out, hey, I want to know what it's like to intern at another company, and I know there's lots of students out there who probably have. This is where you could go and look up questions. People have asked questions. It could be about a specific company, how to do well at a specific company. Some people ask, what's the interview process like at Google? Tell us some questions. That would be a really good one. So for instance, when someone asks, what should I know before I interview at a specific company? And if a student has went through that interview process, they can tell you, yeah, I interviewed for NBC and this is what happened. So that's a great insider tool to ask questions. And then of course, if you would just like to cold call and do more of a network, you can look up students. And this is linked out to students here at FIT, as well as universities throughout the country that also have Handshake. And so if you want to find out, for instance, students that have maybe went to a particular, let's say, employer. So maybe we just talked about Google was something that usually is really sought out. Of course, in the virtual world right now, very much in demand. Amazon, of course, I would say is probably just as high right now. Here is a list that have Google somewhere in their profile. In this case, it could be, for instance, they went to a summer institute, so that's more of an education, or they actually interned somewhere. And so it's somewhere in their profile. And if you want to see, okay, these are from all different universities, maybe you want to see, did anyone from Florida Tech work with Google? You could see right now, we have one alumni that's still here on our platform that says, yes, they had they are a software engineering resident. Okay, that's pretty good. You're noticing it's only one, and you might say, well, that's not very much. Well, of course we protect your privacy, and we want you to know that in Handshake. It is up to you if you want to be public and searchable. So you do not have to allow other students to view your profile or network if you don't want to. So you can see here, not a lot of our students who worked at Google decided to make themselves public, or they didn't share that information, and that's their privacy ability to do so. So we respect that. But if you would like to share, you could see how it could be valuable because you could help other students as well. So that is a benefit to being public, is helping other students. And then of course, you could make yourselves not public to other students, but you could be public to employers only. And we do recommend, that's helpful to be public, because lately in this virtual pandemic setting, a lot of employers are reaching out to students through this Handshake platform, through the messaging tab up here, but they can only do that if you're public to employers. So if they're looking for a student in your major, you're not gonna pop up in their search unless you gave the permission to be public. Totally your choice. If you do, we recommend that your profile is up to date. So under your icon on the right, you're gonna see a profile. And right here we have a prospective account. So this is not a real student, but we're showing you an example of where you would put your education so that employers can find you by your major. We recommend you put any work experience. Sometimes they will search for students that have any work experience or skills. And you can list skills down here towards the bottom and pick whatever skills. This is a preset list based on the major that Handshake's asking because they assume these could be related to your field, but you can add any others by typing here. You could, of course, add, here we see some things that are empty. Extracurriculars, what courses have you taken? Projects. Projects are very important to employers. So recommend you have that up to date. And if you would like to be public to employers only, there's an area here where you can go to your settings and change that if you want. So right now, everyone is always set to private to start. It is your, it's your choice. So we do not change that, only you would be able to change that. So I'm going to end here. We understand there's a lot more to cover in Handshake, for instance. Under the Career Center, we talked about how you could make appointments. Well, here's where you can make an appointment with us if you individually wanted to meet. We have a lot of resources. We touched a little bit on ONET and Career Shift. They are both found under here. But I'm not going to go into detail on those because you should come to the Handshake webinar if you'd like to learn more about all the different ways you can use Handshake, because it's a great tool. It is free to students, and we recommend you at least get familiar with it so you could come to our events and make appointments with us. If you have any further questions, reach out, make an appointment, or contact us directly through our email, which is career@fit.edu.